Once upon a time, in a small village nestled at the foot of lush green hills, there lived an irritable farmer named Arjun. He was known throughout the village for his quick temper and sharp tongue. If someone accidentally stepped onto his land or borrowed his tools without asking, he would erupt in anger, shouting insults that left everyone feeling hurt and uneasy. Over time, people began avoiding him altogether, which only made Arjun angrier and more isolated. One day, news reached the village that the Buddha himself was visiting nearby. Many villagers gathered to hear his teachings, but Arjun scoffed. "What could some wandering monk possibly teach me?" he muttered as he worked in his fields. Later that afternoon, while walking home, Arjun saw the Buddha sitting under a banyan tree outside the village. Curious, he decided to approach, not because he wanted wisdom, but because he thought it might be amusing to challenge this so-called enlightened being. "Hey, monk," Arjun called out rudely. "You talk about peace and happiness, but what do you know about real life? Have you ever dealt with selfish neighbors who steal water from your well, or lazy workers who don't pull their weight?" The Buddha looked up calmly, his face serene like still water. "Please sit down, my friend," he said gently. Surprised by the invitation, Arjun hesitated, but eventually lowered himself onto the grass. "I understand your frustration," the Buddha continued. "Let me tell you a story. There once was a farmer much like yourself," the Buddha began. "He owned 2 oxen, strong and dependable animals, who helped him plow his fields. One day, one of the oxen grew stubborn and refused to work. The farmer became furious, whipping the ox repeatedly and yelling until the animal finally obeyed. But now, the ox moved slowly, sullen and afraid. The next day, the second ox also stopped working. Frustrated again, the farmer reacted the same way, punishing the ox harshly. But soon, both oxen were too exhausted and frightened to perform any labor. Without their help, the farmer couldn't tend to his crops, and his harvest failed. A wise neighbor observed this and offered advice. Instead of reacting with anger, try kindness. Speak softly, reward good behavior, and give them rest when they need it. Though doubtful, the farmer followed the advice, and over time, the oxen regained their strength and trust. Together, they worked harmoniously, and the farmer's fields flourished once more. When the Buddha finished the story, Arjun frowned. "What does this have to do with me?" he demanded. The Buddha smiled kindly. "You are like the farmer, my friend. When others behave poorly, you respond with anger, whipping them with harsh words. But just as the oxen withdrew their effort, those around you withdraw their friendship and goodwill. Instead, if you respond with patience and compassion, even difficult people may soften and cooperate." Arjun sat silently, reflecting on the Buddha's words. For years, he had blamed others for his troubles, never considering how his own reactions contributed to the problem. That evening, instead of lashing out at his neighbor for grazing sheep near his fence, Arjun approached him peacefully. "I noticed your sheep wander close to my field today," he said. "Would you mind keeping them farther away? I'm worried they might eat my crops." To his surprise, the neighbor apologized profusely and promised to be more careful. Over time, Arjun practiced patience with others, and slowly, his relationships improved. His neighbors no longer avoided him. Instead, they admired his newfound calmness and generosity. Years later, when Arjun passed away, the villagers remembered him not as the angry man he used to be, but as someone who transformed through patience and understanding, a living example of the Buddha's teachings. Arjun crossed his arms, skeptical but intrigued.